taken a wee while to get into the grunty bits. I better turn it down or it'll drown me out soon. Okay, Uncle Roddus back, got enough records arrived in the post and picked up in town to make another video. So I better get on to it, got to get through a fair bit. So I've had a few appointments in town, dentist and physio and stuff like that, so I've had the opportunity to get into the record shop. So I had quite a lot of time to spare actually in Penny Lane for a change. Normally I'm kind of flying in and flying out, but I'd had an appointment earlier in the day and then I was picking the wife up from work, so I had about 2 hours to spare. So I'm in Penny Lane and I'm going through all the usual bins, and there's not really, and the funds are pretty, you know, at that moment I haven't got a lot of funds to spend on anything, but you know, I've got enough if I really need to buy something, if there's something that crops up that I can't say no to. And sure enough, something did. It was in the bins. They have a heap of bins along the front of the counter that are full of, they're not records that are not in sleeves. Most of their records are in plastic sleeves. You know, the covers are in plastic sleeves like this sort of thing here. And this particular bunch of records are all in these square plastic crates, don't have any sleeves in them, and a lot of them, there are multiple copies of stuff like Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan and you know, really common stuff, you know, and then the odd other stuff. Anyway, I went through one of those bins and I found this, Vague Secrets. Now this is a really obscure small-time band from Christchurch that was put out in 1985 on a Radar Records, and Radar Records was a local record shop down in Cashel Mall. I didn't do a lot of shopping at Radar Records. Their prices are actually quite high. Later on they used to have a lot of ACM CDs there, but again they were quite highly priced. Anyway, this band here, I'd heard a track off this. I knew nothing about them at the time. I mean, 1985 was, you know, time when I was around the scene in Christchurch, starting to go, just about old enough to go to pubs and stuff. But yeah, didn't know who they were. And Chris had played this record on one of the shows, a song off this called Africa, which is really cool. So anyway, I was stoked to find this because it's not, you know, it's only $20. It's not a big ticket item, you know. So I thought, oh well, I'll go and look through the rest of the bins and see what else I can find, you know, if there's any other little obscure gems floating around in these boxes. So I was flicking through these boxes really quickly, had this thing in my hand. A gentleman just across from the other side of me, on the other side of the boxes, said to me, oh, I'm just looking at the record you've got on your hand there, I noticed. He said, I was in the band. And yeah, wow, so we had a little chat and he was quite surprised to see it. He wasn't overly, you know, saying it wasn't an overly great record. He wasn't overly in awe of it or anything. He said, oh, you know, it's okay. I said, look, I've heard a song off it that I really liked, and there are 2 tracks on it. The one that Chris played and another track on side 1, which I think are the best 2. And it's pretty 80s sounding. But you know, I had a chat to this guy, and it turns out that his name was John Chris. Is his name in here? John Christophs or something. I'd heard his name before. Anyway, it turns out he's in bands like Dark Matter and the Terminals. He's still playing, and I actually had seen him play in a band live recently, the Terminals, more last year. And he's played with Bill Doreen, so you know, quite legendary underground bands in New Zealand. So that was cool. So yeah, and we had a little chat, and that was pretty cool. So I picked that up, yeah, and like I say, rare as hen's teeth, but only $20. And then I was in the Eastgate Mall version of Penny Lane. Again, I was a little bit early to an appointment. I had an appointment in the middle of the day, and I left here a bit earlier than I needed to because I had to do something else and then had some spare time. So I went back in there. Had the guy in Eastgate. He's really nice to talk to. And he knows a bit about New Zealand music. Then I picked up something that isn't New Zealand music. This has been around a lot. There's a lot of copies of this floating around, and I got it for $20. The cover's in immaculate condition. It's a record that I'd had a copy of many years ago, and I have on CD, and it's my favourite of theirs, and it's a great early 70s, you know, prog pop sort of album. Really good. Audience House on the Hill. this is actually a reissue after getting on Discogs. I found out this is actually a reissue, and it's got a different track listing. It's got a different order of the tracks than the original, because I went to my CD, which turns out has the original track listing. So I was slightly disappointed at that, but at the end of the day, it's all the same song, so it's in really good nick. And yeah, that was a good price. It was actually about $10 cheaper than the other originals that I've seen, so because it's their reissue. Right, so I was going to say what's playing in the background, but I haven't got to that. So a bunch of stuff arrived in the mail. I'd picked up some new issues that had come out of New Zealand Music at Flying Out, which I buy a lot of music from, and that was enough to push my reward points over to $150 worth of credit, which is the maximum you can have. And so I got to buy a whole bunch of records for free. And actually not all of them have arrived yet. One of them, I tried to buy a record by a guy called Willie Earl Beale, I think it was, who was a African American and singer who's interesting. Yeah, I came across his record, and they had a copy, supposedly had a copy of it, and I had listened to it on Bandcamp or whatever it was, or Spotify, and was really, really impressed. Damned if they couldn't find their copy of it, and tried to get another copy and said no, they couldn't get one, so missed out there. So anyway, so now these aren't in order, so I'm going to just have to go as we go. So one of the freebies that I got is this special edition concert live, Sneaky Feelings live at the Glue Plot in 1987, living up to their name. This is a limited edition of 300. There was also some very limited edition screen print or special art ones that were really expensive, but this was a Records Day version. Yeah, I don't have a lot of Sneaky Feelings. I've got the original Dunedin double, but that's it. So yeah, I picked this up. The price was actually good, better than it was on Record Store Day. They'd actually got a few dollars off it, and also I didn't have to pay for it. And that came out on a pink vinyl, like so. And that is and for a live recording, actually the guy that put it out is Pine Nut Records, and he is on one of the Facebook pages, the New Zealand Music Lovers Facebook page that I'm on, and he actually put that record out, and I asked him some questions about it, and yeah, really amazingly good live recording, which was a soundboard. He basically went along to this gig and asked them if he could record it, and they said go for it. So he put his cassette into the soundboard, and away he went. Okay, this one here is called Dystopia, Rough Art of the Spiritual. This is some more New Zealanders who are based overseas in Berlin, and Monkey Records, which is run by a New Zealander over there. He actually played on the record, and I can't remember, there's quite a lot of people involved in this, so I can't tell you which one it was. But the lady Liz Moore is a poet, so she recites her poetry over this, but then they've got some really kind of cool jazzy sort of, yeah, really good music in the background. I'm really impressed. Monkey Records do very, very limited editions, and this is apparently a lathe cut direct vinyl, but it's a clear vinyl. It actually looks like a polycarbonate, but it's not, and it plays much better than a polycarbonate. So they do, yeah, it's direct lathe cut, and apparently there is a bit of a hum in the background, and I've got another Monkey Records lathe cut, vinyl lathe cut that has the same, and I asked someone else who had a copy, and they said yes, theirs is the same, but the hum is not bad enough that you can hear it. But 20 copies of this was put out, and that's it. So and I got the last copy, so you can't buy it anymore. Anyway, so also coming in the mail, so from the flight, now hang on, which one's this? Oh, this was another one I picked up from Flying Out that helped push my total over into the $150 worth of free records, and this is Marley's second release, Azimuth, sort of piano-led, singer-songwriter, poppy sort of thing. I've only had a chance to listen to it once so far. I don't know if I like it quite as much as his first one. It's actually an EP, to be honest. It plays at 45. I thought it was going to be a full album, but it's not. Okay, and then this I picked up as a freebie, and I'm bloody glad it is. Translation. This is actually on a Low Hum Records. A Low Hum was a magazine that came out in New Zealand a few years back. I showed a bunch of a Low Hum CDs. They used to have a magazine with interviews with the band, and then they would have a track from each band that they interviewed talking about their music, and they'd have a track on the CD. So this also is a lathe cut, and I didn't know, they didn't bloody tell me on the website that it was a lathe cut. This is a polycarbonate white lathe cut, and it sounds absolutely atrocious, and it's practically unplayable. It started sticking, and you know, I've just spent a whole night the other night doing the tracking and adjusting the weights and all the levels of my tone arm and everything on my turntable, so I know there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so lathe cuts. This is the second lathe cut that I've accidentally bought without knowing it was a lathe cut. The first one I just didn't read the fine print. This one there was absolutely nothing on their website, and I'm actually going to drop them a line about it. I had listened to the record on Bandcamp. It's actually a bunch of New Zealand bands covering another songs by another New Zealand band called The Shocking Pinks, and it's not a bad little record, but as far as a lathe cut's concerned, yeah, I am not impressed. There are a lot of New Zealand underground acts that put out like 20 to 50 copies of lathe cuts, you know, 7 inches, and that, you know, and I know a few people who collect them, but you can't play them. I mean, they're just rubbish. Okay, next up is this guy, Jonathan Bree. This is his brand new album. So this was one of the ones I picked up, new release that I picked up from flying out, so that I could, well, A, because I wanted to buy it, and B, because it gave me that extra credit to get some of the freebies I've been showing. Not really familiar with Jonathan. This is about his third record. I think he's got a CD and then another vinyl pre this, which I've got on my want list. Yeah, first listen, and I mean, I had listened to a couple of tracks on videos or whatever it was, and it sounded pretty cool, which prompted me to buy it. So yeah, just chamber pop, really, I suppose you call it, on a dark blue vinyl. There it is. This is on Little Chief Records. I was going to say, was it self-released? Okay, so next one I see down here is also the other new release that I picked up, just come out in the shops in the last few weeks. This is Alien Weaponry, and 2 is the album. This is their very first record. These fellas here, these 3 guys, they're pretty much still in high school. They're like about 15, 16 years old. This is heavy metal. It's not like raw, death, growly sort of heavy metal. It's more commercial side of that, but still it's pretty good. First listen, it's really cool. This is actually at #1 in the US metal chart. Someone posted on Facebook today, and it also went to #1 on New Zealand album chart. So they're doing really well. It's on first listen. It's, you know, oh, what was I thinking? It was like a cross between Metallica and one song in particular, a cross between Metallica and God, I can't remember the name of the more slightly alternative band, and it's completely out of my head. Okay, so this came with a bonus 7-inch, which I haven't played yet. I don't know if the tracks actually on here. No, so they are extra tracks that are not on the record, so that's pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. There were 2 issues of this put out, gold and silver vinyl that you could buy direct from the record store, which means we had what are they called? Napalm Records out of Europe. So that was getting a little bit costly, although not that much dearer than this, to be honest, even with the price of mailing. So yeah, this says strictly limited edition with the 45. So I guess, yeah, that's at least a little bonus. So that's cool. Anyway, yeah, I really like this. I'm really impressed with it. I think they've done a bloody good job, these young fellas, and they're going to go a long way. It's not necessarily, you know, Rage Against the Machine. That was the name of the band I was thinking of. There's a little bit of a crossover there with that, and the way they were singing in that, and then Metallica and that. But I mean, so they're not breaking any new ground, but at their age, if they're putting out music this good, what are they going to be like if they can keep it going? And I think, you know, and mature, and they could be really important band in New Zealand. And finally, another non-New Zealand one. This is another one of the ones I got with the free records I got. Maserati Rehumanizer. This is what's playing in the background. It's just on black vinyl. I'd read about these in a magazine somewhere. I think there was a prog magazine I saw, and I read about them. Saw this record, got online, had a listen to it. Yeah, it sounds alright. That sounds alright to me, yeah. So, put it on my want list and picked it up for free, basically. So there we go. There's another bunch of records. And I've got one more free one coming to replace the one that they couldn't ship me. So that's arriving in the next day or so. And then I've got 3 Bandcamp purchases that I picked up, all New Zealand music, which are on their way. Well, will be on their way when they haven't sent them yet. So that's cool. So yeah, that'll be for on my next video. So there it is, another video. You won't get to see this for a few more weeks. It's the shortest day of the year. It's winter solstice today. Yeah, 21st of June. And we've actually had a reasonably nice day. We've had pretty gloomy weather here for the last month. Today's turned out to be a nice day, and yeah, so this won't get posted for 2 or 3 weeks until I've got 2 other videos to put up yet. So anyway, yep, you'll probably see me in July talking to you from June. Anyway, enough of this waffle. Let's close it off. See you later.